All right, beloved. So, still in the necromantic paradigm, we want to point something really simple out, right? Even the Egyptians knew how to get celestial wisdom, the most celestial wisdom, the most capacitance in their mind possible, right? Or potential, right? Beyond the individual, godly potential, right? Godly. Right? You got to be worried about what godly is when you find out what it is. Flop it around. All right, so Thoth here. I want you to look at this. This picture is exactly what goes on. These Egyptians knew how to get divine wisdom for all the things they needed, the processes, agrarian, everything, because there was peoples before, right? And the process of that is, you see all those things hanging above his head? I'll flip it around. We know what those are. Those are vessels, right? They're little vessels, human essences. There can be up to 8. And these witches have known this process forever, right? So that's a mummy, right? But they're honoring also the 8 essences that this thing needed to be the magician it needed to be for the society it was part of, right? Wrap your mind around that. So to get the grandiosity of the build of that society, it took magicians and sorcerers and conjurers, and at the end of the day, they take people out of this existence and add their essences, their allotments, their mental capacities to themselves. And back then, they were always looking for certain types of people, just like these weirdos are here today, looking for certain types of people, virtues people, to add to their virtues, right? To add to their virtues, right? Because not every person gets the same allotment. Sometimes they get a dud, right? And they have to find another one, so to speak, right? The Egyptians knew how to cultivate people and knew that even the slaves, the so-called slaves, the people in a lower state, were the same people as them. They were coming back in reincarnations and living in a low condition and having to uplift themselves or live through that life in that condition to get into the next tier. It used to be just a caste system. You're like there for that life. Next life, you're going to come back if you didn't do things that make the creator upset, right? So, what those serpents on the head are, or the Medusa, the Gorgon, is an individual who has taken godly authority by taking spiritual essence, right? And they sit above you, and they feed your essence, right? Like little balloons above you, like a little tree above you. And those vessels, like that spiritual essence, no matter what age, they call white magic the youngsters, right? Hang around them like a chandelier, feed them, right? Because they don't cause as much malefic stuff to them. Still, the whole process is godly terrible. Godly is not a good thing, actually. That's what I found out. Godly is the thing you don't want to be. You want to be humanly. You want to be considerate. You want to be loving your brother. You want to love your neighbor. You want to, not do things that get in between them and their ability to make more people, or society to be cohesive, right? Removing income from people, opportunity from people, allowing automation to cheat everyone out of the opportunity and giving it to places that don't think like humans, don't act like humans, and enact ways against humans and act malignantly in our economy and in our authority, right? They're in between us and our civil rights and our social rights, right? The corporate occupation, where everybody thinks they have to be in between you and your life, you and your pee, you and your mind, right? Any of that stuff. You and your credit do you have to put your credit score in to fucking clock in? No. They don't need to know any of that shit. It's just ridiculous. No, they do not need to know your credit score to hire you. There's no reason for it. That's in between you and your own privacy and your own authority. It's just everywhere, guys. There's a way to get out of this. We got to get these wizards and magicians out of their fucking spots, right? The mind change is going to happen, y'all. Where we were able to pick these people out and they couldn't hide, right? There was a period of time where they were able to rule and do their thing. And then it gets to a point where, like, okay, Papa's going to pick the toys up, right? And he doesn't have to send people to physically do it. He can have the sun declare it and the moon suck it up, right? Doesn't even have to be a hand-on process. Suck all them diamonds up off you. Show them out during the day and everybody's like, what the hell? And then at night they just get sucked up. I think the playtime is over, guys. We're going to go back to a society where people aren't slaving us all crazy through witchcraft, where they rule by natural means, right? The natural laws that we're given through the power, because there's powers, right? There's natural laws, stuff that we're supposed to, rights and opportunities, all those things we're supposed to be giving each other, right? There's not supposed to be a corralling or gatekeeping going on, right? That's a witchcraft in and of itself, right? Why should there be opportunity for some and not for all, right? There's stuff going on, y'all. There is going to be castes. It's just how this system here, this existence, you come back in it in different spots. Based on how you respond, you get a different spot or get a judgment, right? There are multiple kinds, right? We believe the number one thing that's going to happen is the sun is going to turn, and the moon is going to turn on in a capacity, and Saturn's going to dump out a bunch of spirits, right, to pick the diamonds off these fuckers and take them back with them, right? And we believe when that happens, those people who took those things maliciously, because each side took them maliciously, the white witches and the dark witches, they took them both maliciously, right? Even the sun witches took maliciously stuff. It's all going up. The moon witches did too. I mean, the reality is the place is ran by chaos witches. So they're going to have every kind of everything here, right? And they hide themselves as all sorts of things, all sorts of facilities, all sorts of establishments. And they used to be set up in benefic, right? Set up to continue society's capacity. Now it's the corralling of resources for some, to the diminishing resources that are showing up because of regulation, lack of input from other countries, right? Whatever it is, the lack of desire to industrialize, the deindustrialization of America, all that crap. It's done everywhere. It was done in Europe too, right? It all ties in. It's all a game, right? A game played on us by people that know those things exist through godly advantage, right? Using it for ungodly affairs, right? Or godly affairs that take people out of this existence for their authority. Why should that be a thing? Shouldn't be a thing. We don't need that much advancement in society. Society can develop at whatever pace it needs to without that stuff. Way back when, we were able to manse them fuckers out in the open and be like, oh, that ghost is declaring that person did this and that. We don't have to have that. We don't have to have a court. We don't have to do anything. The Mancer has turned the sun on, and every time they come out, we can hear the ghost talking to us when you get close. It's a proximity thing. Like, they had to hide way back when, right? There was something different about that time. We got to think about that. Because those things existed. They still exist today. They want you to think everybody's crazy that thinks those things exist, but the YouTube's flooded with witches and this and that. But one kind of witch is psychologically damaged and is probably mentally ill, and the other kind is totally socially acceptable, right? Who knows? There's a spectrum on it, right? That's why that Spectromancer shows whether you did something unrighteously here. There's multiple dispositions. You can even have ones hanging on you for negligence, where it's not really malefic, but you got one hanging on you for negligence. And let me remind you that birth control determinations and stuff, you got ones hanging on you, right? You're getting allotments. If things worked out all of a sudden afterward for you, and things worked really good and got social and societal benefit and fluidity, you're getting someone else's essence, right? If you did that. That's how that's working. That's how these people move up. They get people in trouble. They do all sorts of shit. There's many ways to do it, right? And we know it. We know it. We're in a position where everything, like the scriptures say, it's the valley of the shadow of death. They want you dead 10 times over, you know? As if I wasn't already, right? Due to my current social position. But we're going to stay plucky about it. Because we know any point in time, things could turn over. Their witchcraft could be broken in a day. It's really on an accord with the gods. At one point in time, the gods could just be like, okay, it's over. Playtime's over. We're just going to pick it all up and give it back to the people it's supposed to be and create social fluidity. Maybe Have to create a restitution system for you guys, because it's going to be obvious you got the things hanging off you or whatever. Back then, we didn't suffer them to live or whatever. There was all sorts of things that were, it was totally, they weren't putting people away for getting people, rid of people that were doing them things, I guess, right? And there was all sorts of manners of dispatch them, right? The break-in wheel, the pit burn, all sort of awful stuff, right? And you gotta wonder, like, why were people doing that? Because these people are taking 8 specters each. They should just go easy for 8 specters. That was 8 people's lives. Think about a life. A person could live up to 100 years almost now, if in good health. How many children come from that person? How many children come from the image of their own infinity? I need you to wrap your mind around it. Not just that person, but you ruined a seed line if you do that. 8 seed lines. That's why it's like not 800 years, you might say. It's like what those people were supposed to make on the other end of their reality that you took and added to yourself. Those allotments, right? That's how that works. That's why such stuff just shows up. Because you're getting spiritual allotments you ought not have, right? It's magic, right? Have a good rest of your day. Spectromancer out.